Did you know that Australia has a domestically designed and manufactured radar system which can detect a fighter plane over Indonesia, a naval ship sailing around Papua New Guinea, or even a missile being fired in China? Well, we do. It's called the Jindalee Operational Radar Network, or JORN for short, and it's one of Australia's greatest defence industry success stories. An ace up our sleeve when it comes to regional surveillance, and it's about to become our biggest defence export as we sell the system to Canada for $6.5 billion. I'm Mel Pikos, and today we're talking tactics. What is JORN? JORN is an over-the-horizon radar network developed by the Defence Science and Technology Organisation and is now operated by number 1 radar surveillance unit of the Royal Australian Air Force. Over-the-horizon radar is a type of system which can detect targets at very long ranges, well beyond the distance of regular radar systems. The network can monitor air and sea movements out to 3,000 kilometres. It's mainly used for defence purposes, but it can also monitor non-defence maritime operations, as well as wave heights and wind directions for meteorological purposes. JORN consists of a main control centre at RAF Base Edinburgh in South Australia and 3 transmitter and receiver stations: Radar 1 at Longridge in Queensland, Radar 2 at Laverton, Western Australia, and Radar 3 at Alice Springs in the Northern Territory. What can JORN do? One thing to keep in mind when we talk about JORN is that it's continually being upgraded. The sensitivity of the systems has greatly increased over the decades that it's been in development and operation. Infrastructure and software updates have made sure it has kept its position as a world-leading over-the-horizon radar. So even though the system may have had a certain level of capability in a particular area decades ago, chances are that it now exceeds that level. The exact current capabilities of JORN are classified. Officially, JORN allows the ADF to monitor air and sea activity north of Australia up to 3,000 kilometres from a radar site. This takes in Java, much of the Java and Banda Seas, most of Papua New Guinea, and eastern parts of the Indian Ocean. Interestingly, it has been reported that the system has detected missile launches in southern China, which is 5,500 kilometres away. Other reports have stated that the system has at least some functionality out as far as 6,500 kilometres out to Korea or northern China. So what can it do with these ranges? According to a 1987 technical specification, the network can detect and track either aircraft or missiles at least 12 metres long and ships 40 metres or longer, so long as they have a metal hull. This means that JORN can supposedly detect anything from a small fighter jet or patrol boat and larger. But it's widely believed that the network is now much more sensitive than this, particularly at shorter ranges. With 5th generation stealth aircraft becoming more and more common, JORN's anti-stealth capabilities are becoming more vital. Most stealth aircraft are only designed to avoid detection by the microwaves of conventional radar, not the short waves of JORN. And apparently the network is pretty good at detecting these. JORN is also capable of countering other radar defeating strategies, such as flying low, just above the waves or behind mountains. This doesn't work as JORN is a downward looking system. How does JORN work? Okay, I'm going to try and explain this as simply as possible, so bear with me for a couple of minutes. It's honestly fascinating technology, even without getting too wonky about the science of it all. Conventional radar usually works by transmitting out electromagnetic microwaves in a straight line. These microwaves hit an object and bounce back to the radar's receiver, giving information about the object's location and speed. Because this system relies on microwaves being transmitted out in a straight line and back again, the maximum effective range is usually only a few hundred kilometres due to the curvature of the Earth. However, over-the-horizon radar systems work a bit differently. These systems work by transmitting shortwaves up and out towards the ionosphere, where they then bounce back towards Earth from an altitude of about 100 kilometers. This allows the radio waves to be transmitted much further before they hit a solid surface or object. Objects like aircraft or ships are detected when these shortwaves hit them from above. Like a normal radar, the shortwaves then reflect off the object, but in this case, they head back up to the ionosphere and then to a receiver set up away from the transmitter. This means that these shortwaves can do round trips of 5,000 kilometers in a split second and pick up objects only a few meters long. Absolutely incredible. The specifications of each transmission and receiver array differ a little, but the transmitter arrays at Longreach and Laverton each have 28 elements driven by a 20 kilowatt power amplifier. The receivers are giant arrays of antenna, with the Laverton receiver station having 480 sets of them. There are some drawbacks to relying on the ionosphere for signal reflection, as its performance can be affected by disturbances. Events like solar flares, as well as the transitions at sunrise and sunset, cause fluctuations in solar radiation and temperature, which in turn impact the ionosphere's stability. In fact, there are theories that this may have caused the MH370 pilot to avoid entering Australian airspace until after sunrise to ensure that the plane was not detected by JORN. Extreme weather and rough seas can also reduce the effectiveness of JORN. JORN's development history. The development of Australia's over-the-horizon radar system dates back over half a century. However, construction of a prototype radar near Alice Springs only started in 1974. This prototype system ran successfully for 2 years in the late 1970s before being replaced by the new Alice Springs radar system, which started operating in 1982. This system is still operational, forming part of the JORN network today, as well as being the main research and development testbed for the network. The Alice Springs radar was handed over to the Air Force, and then in 1986, the decision was made to build a full network of over-the-horizon radars. Due to extensive challenges with contractors in the 1990s, the network, including the additional stations at Longreach and Laverton, as well as the control centre at Air Force Base Edinburgh, weren't completed until 2003. Since then, a number of upgrades have maintained the system's edge and improved its capabilities. Most recently, in 2018, it was announced that BAE Systems Australia would undertake a 10-year upgrade of the network at a cost of $1.2 billion. This project is expected to create 500 jobs and involve 110 Australian companies. The sale to Canada. On the 18th of March 2025, new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced that Canada would acquire their own JORN system at a cost of $6.5 billion Australian dollars. Canada will use the system to surveil their vast Arctic approaches. The price tag of this sale makes it Australia's most valuable defence export of all time, and it is testament to Australia's defence industry and technology capabilities that we are able to create such a useful system and keep it on the cutting edge for decades. Canada is finding it increasingly important to monitor its northern approaches as both Russia and China become more active in the Arctic. At the same time, climate change means that there is less ice in the Arctic, making it easier for ships to navigate routes that would have previously been completely frozen over. But Canada isn't the only country currently interested in JORN. The US has expressed strong interest in buying the system and mounting it on their west coast to monitor Chinese shipping. And the UK is also reportedly keen on the system. Final thoughts. It is great to see Australia develop and maintain a world-leading technology like this. I think it really does have the potential to be an ace up our sleeve in the event of a future conflict. There have been arguments made in recent decades that over-the-horizon radars are a bit old-fashioned compared to technology like spy satellites, but there are some solid reasons that these systems are making a comeback. spy satellites can be disrupted with relative ease. Destroying 3 larger radar arrays spread across Australia would be fairly challenging. They are also generally less expensive to install and maintain than satellite systems, and if JORN could consistently detect stealth fighters, that could be an absolute game changer. But I'm keen to hear what you think. Do you think JORN deserves to be celebrated a bit more as a genuine Aussie success story? Or is it a good idea for it to keep flying under the radar, so to speak? And should we be shopping this technology out to our allies as widely as possible? Or do everything we can to maintain our technological advantage in this space, even if this means keeping it to ourselves? I'm keen to read your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and if you're new here, why not subscribe so you don't miss the next video? That's it for today. I'm Pikos, and we've been talking tactics.